a 2-week trial period with somebody and then doing the background check at that time? Would you recommend doing some kind of background check before you even do any kind of trial period at all? And then what's the legality of letting them know that you're going to do that?
What state are you in, Erin?
I'm in the Bay Area as well. I'm in San Jose.
Okay. Dentists, I'm going to give you a long answer, okay? Dentists have a tendency to want to do working interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do a working interview, the key word there is working. So you have to pay the person. Yeah. If you hire the person, if you put them on your payroll and hire them, and certainly in the Bay Area, don't be doing independent contractors and all that stuff. If you hire them, they're hired. So I absolutely suggest you do a background check before you hire them. You can give them an offer letter and if you're not using offer letters when you hire, you need to use an offer letter. And in the offer letter, you say, this offer is conditioned on a background check.
Okay.
And then you do the background check because it's very difficult after 2 or 3 weeks to say, you know what, I want you to go on the background check site and sign up. And she's like, or he's like, I'm already hired. Why are you doing this now? So do it before. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm offering a position to someone tomorrow, so this is helpful.
Okay. So do you have an offer letter?
No.
I'm going to give you my email.
Okay.
Send me an email. I'll send you a sample offer letter. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's Barbara, Barbara,
okay,
at HR Advisors, so ADVISORS.net.
Okay.
And just say, send me an offer letter. And so you should give people offer letters if they're temps and if they're regular full-time employees.
Okay.
Give them an offer letter and you can make it conditioned on a background check.
Okay, great.
Sure, you're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a lot of questions, but I feel like other people should.
No, carry on. You're in California.
Yeah, so one of my other questions is, I know you were talking about as far as, in your presentation, the types of questions that you ask, and we have, we review the resume ahead of time. My dad and I practice together. We have questions that we lay out and ask, and then we had a bad hiring experience when I first started where we did one interview and she seemed great for a couple of weeks, and then we just kind of found out she was just incredibly disorganized. She would present things organized and then would have like weird drawers with piles of unscanned papers that I found, and so it was just getting to be a little bit stressful. So we ended up letting her go and she moved, and so that was fine. But we've been now kind of cautious and looking for another fit, which would be like an upfront treatment coordinator type person. So we did like a sit down interview with myself, the other doctor, and this person. And then we've done a few. And then I did a second interview where I had them present a case. And I didn't know, my dad hadn't done a lot of that, but I thought it would maybe be a good idea to have them, like I gave them, a mock patient example of a treatment plan, gave some models, and basically, let them sit in my office, review it for 15, 20 minutes. Because I've done this for other jobs, not dental, before I became a dentist. And then came back and asked them to present. So I wanted to know if that was appropriate that I did that. And then also, then we're doing like a working interview type thing after. But to me, that was helpful. I don't know if that was a good idea or not.
It's a really good idea.
Okay.
Because what a lot of people do when they hire is they come up with questions, but they don't have answers for the questions. You have to have an answer, right answer for a question for it to be a good question. So giving scenarios and having her present a treatment plan is a wonderful thing, but you have to have how it's supposed to be also written down. So you can say there's 10 points she's supposed to cover, and she covered 8 of them. And then you have another person and she covered 6 of them. And so if you can quantify and really lay out exactly what you're looking for, your hires will be better because you can compare candidates more objectively. So if you've got 5 candidates that show up for this job and one of them is African American and one of them is Asian and three of them are white, and the three you call back are the white ones, you have to have something to back up why you made that decision.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a really good idea. And when it comes to questions, going back to that, if you develop good questions and you have the answers, anybody can do interviewing and you'll come up with better results. So I really stress, and I've been a recruiter for years, and I really stress the questions. You can also send people an email to screen. So if you get a whole bunch, say you're advertising for front desk and you get 50 resumes,
Yeah.
send some qualifying questions by email, such as don't ask for salary history in California,
Right.
but such as what's the most important thing you can do for patients? What's the most important thing you can do to assist the doctor? You know, and have an answer. Have an answer to those questions. I mean, you can have 4 or 5 answers, but you'll get a lot of information that in that first screen, because some people send you their resume just so they can get unemployment. The people who answer are the people you want to hear from. Or a question like this: how will I know you're organized before I hire you?
Yeah.
So that's one of the ones that, you know, somebody's got to think about that.
Right.
And if you'd had, you know, some information on that woman, you would have saved yourself some trouble. The other thing is reference checking. Some people say, I'm not going to check references because nobody tells you anything anyway. That's not true. I check references and I get information. And people will tell you. And what you're listening for is patterns, hesitations, wordsmithing. My favorite story on references is when I was trying to place an accounting person for a dentist, and this woman worked for a previous doctor, and I called him and he said, "Did she give you my name as a reference?" And that told me a lot right there. She hadn't. And I said, "No, she didn't." And he said, "Well, there's a good reason for that. She was truly awful." And he proceeded to tell me why. So you don't have to be bound by the list of references they give you, and you want business references.
So you can call people that they list as former employers, even if they don't list them as references. That's okay?
Absolutely. Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you develop really good questions for the candidate, you can ask some of those same questions of the reference. So if you say to the candidate, how will I know you're organized before I hire you? And he or she says, whatever, you can say to the reference, is this person organized? The reference is going to tell you.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, very, very much so. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
Hey, Barbara, Darren wants to ask, who pays for the background check? Is that something that the company pays for, or how do you manage that?
Yes, the company pays for the background check, and the best way it works, we work with a company called Advanced Reporting, and a lot of the good ones, I don't recommend just putting somebody's, getting some online background check. You should have a company that you work with, and you set up an account. You tell the company what kinds of checks you want to do, and I recommend criminal and civil. And then you tell them, and then they will send you put a person's information in online, and the person then has to go to the site and sign an authorization and release saying that yes, they approve of the background check company doing a background check. If you have somebody that won't do it, you've just saved yourself a lot of trouble. But they will usually you can send a link or they send a link depending on how they do things. And the person goes there and gives an authorization, and you get the background check and you pay for it.
Got it. Very good. Other questions for Barbara?
What are some of the questions you can't ask people you're hiring?
I can barely hear you, Tyler, but I think you said, what are some questions you can't ask? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What state are you in?
I'm in Colorado, but I'm going to be moving to California.
Okay. You can't ask if somebody is married. And this is pretty general across the board. Better to be safe than sorry on this, even if you're in a state that doesn't have these requirements. But California certainly has these requirements. You can't ask if somebody's married. You can't ask if somebody has kids. You can't ask their political persuasion or their religious persuasion. You can't ask if they, you can ask if they can work in the United States, and they'll have to bring in documentation to complete the I-9 form within 3 days of their hire. But you can't ask people about their criminal record. So what I mean is, a lot of times applications say, have you committed a felony within the last 7 years, for example. Now in California, you can't do that. You can't ask for salary history anymore in California. You can in other states. You can ask, what salary would you like? And you should have a range that you want to pay for that position, because in California, Aaron, this is for your benefit too, a person can ask you what you pay, and you pretty much have to tell them. And the reason for that is because the Fair Pay Act passed. The reason for that is the belief is that if you have two candidates, let's say you're hiring an office manager and you have a man and a woman, and you say you think you want to pay, let's pick a round number, $60,000. If the man says he was making $58,000 and the woman says she was making $45,000, your tendency is going to be to offer the woman the job because you have to pay her less, and that continues the gender-based disparity. So there's the Equal Pay Act, which is federal, but so stay away from asking salary history and just ask what a person needs. So there's a bunch more. But those are the big ones. You can't ask how old they are, and you can't ask when they graduated from high school, because that tells you how old they are. And if somebody sends you a resume with the date of their high school graduation, just ignore it. White it out or something so it doesn't influence you, because you don't want to know their age. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Let me make one more comment on that. Most people want to know if an applicant has kids, because they want to know if they're going to get to work on time and if they're going to have to be going off to school all the time to take care of something with their kids. So the question is that you can ask is, can you come to work at 7:45 every day consistently? And will your attendance be good? They'll say yes to everything, but that's when you ask their reference. So that's what you really want to know. You don't care if they have 1 kid or 9 kids or no kids. You care if they get there and they are there every day.
As a reference, Barbara listed, and the document is attached to our, right below her video on the website. There's a list of questions that Barbara created that she shared with all of you that are just golden questions to ask. They're a lifetime of her work putting together some of these questions that you can ask an applicant. And so on that link that I gave you where her video is hosted, you can download that document. The link is just right underneath the video.
I had just 2 follow-up questions really quick to what you were talking about there. As far as the range for salary, do you recommend, I know in your video you talked a little bit about the difference between your posting and kind of the information about the job. Do you recommend putting that salary range in that when you're advertising the position?
Aaron, there's two schools of thought on this. And recently I put the salary into a search that I was doing. Mm-hmm. And the theory is that if you put it in, people who either make too much won't bother to apply.
Mhm.
And people who make a lot less will apply because it sounds great. What I found was that people who made more than my range still applied, and some of them tried to talk me into paying more. So if your range is absolutely rock solid, yeah, I'd publish it. And if people, are going to apply, they'll know the range, and they should be satisfied with the range.
Right.
But yeah, you can try it either way.
Okay. And then I just had one other question, if that's okay. As far as knowing the age of an applicant, the lady that we interviewed for the position, she was really candid. She's older than I am, but she was candid that she wants to retire in like 7, 8, max 9 years. She had a lot of positive things, and I think could really help the office. But she was candid about it. How could I respond, I guess, to something like that? I just wasn't sure what to say exactly.
Do you take notes when you're interviewing?
Yes.
Okay. So the way that you write your notes is important.
Okay.
If you say, Mary volunteered that she wants to retire in 7 to 9 years, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do the math in your head and write down her age. But if she volunteers it, it's fine. You can write it down and you can remember it. You haven't asked, so you're good.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I have a question. I have a question that's not really related to those things.
Okay.
We hired a person recently that looked like she was going to be great. She had a great track record, great demeanor, great everything. But as soon as we got her hired, those things kind of vanished. All the things that we were hoping that she would be.
Right.
And as soon as she got the job, it's almost like she just kind of sunk into a little rut that she was comfortable with. And I wish we could have kind of foreseen some of those things. And I'm wondering what tips or tricks do you have to kind of sift out some of those things that might be a red flag or something like that?
Did you check references?
We checked references, and we got kind of generic, she's great, no bad things to kind of say about them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we got a complete honest reference from them.
Did you call any doctors she'd worked for?
I did, and our office manager did, so I can't really speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
But that'd be interesting to find out what they said, though.
I should do a training on reference checking sometime, because I've so often heard people check references and they think of it as just a vanilla thing they have to do because, check, how was she? She was fine. Great. Thanks so much. There's no in-depth anything. And I began asking people, is this person quirky? And they laugh and they tell me, or some off-the-wall question that breaks through that just, yes, she was fine, I don't want to say anything good or bad or otherwise, kind of thing. But when that happens, and that does happen, sit the person down right away and say, you know what? This isn't working very well because the person we interviewed doesn't seem to be the person that's coming to work every day. Is that person just your interviewing persona? Or can we have that kind of attention and whatever it is that she was doing that she isn't doing? Just tell her. If this is the way it's going to be going forward, it isn't who you presented and it isn't who we wanted to hire.
Okay. That's good.
And speak to specific behaviors. People have a tendency to say she was rude to patients or, things like that. Well, rude is just a word. What behaviors did she say? What did she do? What did she not do specifically? And
Okay.
that's a better communication with a person when you're trying to discipline them or whatever. But it's also good in hiring when you can say, how will I know you're organized before I hire you, for example.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. Anybody else? Has anybody had the experience on this same track of people who've oversold themselves only to find, clinically particularly, that they can't do what they say they can do? Has that happened?
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, what you really should do in those cases every time is sit the person down after you've prepared what exactly is going on and make notes in writing, and tell them it's a verbal warning. Tell them, we're just having this conversation, and do it in writing or send a follow-up email. Because if you don't do it in writing, it didn't happen.
So kind of as a follow-up to that, do you recommend having, like, I know it's important to have clear guidelines, and I know in your video and now you've kind of talked about that, but do you recommend having like almost a employee manual for different positions, or do you recommend having a document that's person specific with like their name on it, and that way if there are issues you can kind of write those down and then talk about them? What's the best way to make sure expectations, especially as a new hire, that things are clear in that regard?
I think in that video, it talks about making a list of what makes a person successful in the job. Does it talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That list is so valuable. If you sit down with yourself and make that list, it's bigger than the job description. So the job description is a what document. And by the way, we've written job descriptions for all the positions in a dental office already. So if you want one, you can certainly, it's in Word, so you can amend it. But it's a what document. What are the functions this job is supposed to do? And it also has the physical requirements of the job and a bunch of other stuff. That, you can take parts of that to put in your list of what makes a person successful. But the value of that list is in the other stuff, the personality stuff, the person who is dependable, the person who lights up a room when they come in, the person, whatever it is. It's in my office, as I said, I think it's about pace. I need people who can move along. I cannot work with a slow-paced person. That bird you hear, by the way, is my bird clock. I don't hear it. Anyway, so that list is what also guides you in your expectations. So if you give that list to somebody when you hire them and say, this is what makes a person successful in this position, then if they're not doing them, you can come back and say, remember we talked about this. These are the things, these are the ones, number 5 and number 8, that you're not doing. And then the job description, if it's an actual function, you can point to the job description. So those two things are very powerful in stating your expectations, particularly that list of what makes a person successful. And I'm a big believer in, of course, handbooks, but a lot of dentists write procedure manuals. And the job description, you can have the job description as a sign-off too, Erin, where the person signs the bottom saying, yeah, I get what I'm supposed to do. And that's helpful. Now they understand. But some people do write procedure manuals for all the positions in the office, and that's a how document. How do you do these things? Does that help?
Yeah.
Any other questions? We've been on for about a half an hour. I don't want to, take your whole night. If there's more questions, let's do it. Maybe let's say we've got 3 or 4 more minutes, and then we'll wrap up. So, any other questions?
Something occurs to you in the middle of the night, send me an email. Happy to answer.
I got a question more so of kind of the advertising of the positions. I just kind of looked online to see kind of how we advertise. We have a kind of an office manager that kind of handles a lot of that. And how do you make your application or your job position enticing to people that are kind of going through Indeed or some of those other hiring sites, so that it's not just a run-of-the-mill position?
The purpose of a posting is to market your practice and the job. Some people just copy the job description and stick it in a posting, and that's that. The job description is not a marketing piece. You need somebody who can write with some flair and say, you know, this is a great practice and here's why, and we want somebody that's like this and like that, and incorporate some of the things you want, but it's a marketing piece. You have to approach it completely differently than just one more posting and here's the job. And you know, people can pick that up in the tone of the posting, that, you know, there's one more job and we're like everybody else and nothing special. But put some stuff in there that is enticing. We have a great office. Everybody always says that. We have a wonderful team. Everybody always says that. So what is it about your team that makes them really fun? I mean, some people, who is it, Stuart, you might remember, who is it that has all those videos of their team in costume?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
It's hysterical. I mean, if you go on their website, their team is all in costumes. Their patients are in costumes. and the patients talk about the practice. I mean, that's a little out there, but that's an example of somebody who's thought through this, and they're basically marketing themselves to people who would really like that and who come to the dentist for, you know, more fun than normal. So just set yourself apart with something that's true but a little bit interesting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else? Final question, final answer, final questions. Okay, very good. I have one question for all of you. I've kind of picked who I think would be important, or what I feel like you would need. Are there any suggestions for me? I have an incredible amount of resources to gather mentors for you. Are there businesses or people or ideas that you want to learn about in the coming months that I can go and find for you? Who do you want to hear from?
Something that would be helpful, especially if, you know, I'm sure all of us being young are trying to grow the practices that we're in, for me would be kind of where to look as far as growing a practice with patients. I feel like there's so many options out there, like Leadstream, I think is one, you know, web.com, Yelp's always calling, they drive me crazy, but like all the different options as far as ways to get leads to bring patients in. And I know a lot of that is social media and how you market your practice, but I think, I don't know, I mean, everyone can chime in, but, you know, as a younger dentist, I think it's, you know, we're always wanting new patients, we're wanting to bring people in, grow things, become busier. And so I think kind of how to navigate some of that.
Okay.
I don't know if for most people, if they're an associate and the owners are doing a lot of that, or if they're responsible for that. So there's a little bit, I'm not sure there what angle to go from, but for me, that'd be helpful. So
Very good. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got Lane Anderson. He just finished it's the new video in the library I just posted yesterday. He is an internet search guru. So his whole day is focused on how to optimize search engines to find you. That's his business, is what is happening in Google, what is happening in on search engines that is changing and moving. And he lists about, he spends about 40 minutes on what you guys can be doing to make yourself shine on search engines. So that's pretty cool. And then we've got Jack Hadley from My Social Practice lined up for February, 1st of February. So he's going to do a marketing piece and social media piece, and then he's going to come online and answer questions just like this. So Any other thought? Is there any dentists that you want to hear from? People that mentors that you'd want on here? Is that interesting? Do you want to hear from doctors or guys who I guess have made it? Is that somebody that would that be interesting to hear from?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think which one particularly or which field or things like that. And I kind of want to say all of them, but we can't do all of them.
Okay. Well, I have some great guys in mind and women who have made amazing careers and lives out of dentistry who are in Crown Council and have been from the beginning. These are the people that you can associate with on the email network, but I will do a little research and find some mentors because I think it'd be worthwhile to hear from not only business development but doctors in the group. So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
On that point, maybe as a younger dentist, you can answer this question. My business, I don't do any marketing, and I get new clients every week. And they all come from referrals. Because in my business, if people trust me and my staff, they tell other people. Because I found that just plain marketing doesn't work in my line of work. Do referrals if you're working for another dentist and you're an associate, do referrals matter as much in dentistry as they do for my business? I mean, belonging to organizations and telling people that you're a dentist, do you get patients from that? Or not so much these days? Stu, what do you think?
100%. It's the most important way that a dental practice can grow. If your number one patient resource isn't people referring their friends and family to you, things are backwards with the practice and the team, for sure. It's vital. I mean, that's how Crown Council grows. We grow by Erin telling her friend and then her friend having a great experience with the Young Dentist program and bringing someone new next year. I mean, that's how we grow. That's how we want to grow. So a dental practice should be the same, for sure.
Because people trust their friends.
They do. They do, and there are certain skills that have to revolve around a team knowing how to ask for those referrals, though. I mean, we teach certain skills that a team should know how to ask. Who else can, if a person says, "Thank you for your great service today," the team should be prompted to then say, "Well, what did you enjoy about the service? Who else do you know who could benefit from a service like this?" I mean, that is a team-trained skill to ask for a referral. That's my thoughts. Any other thoughts?
I think that's great.
Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap up. Are we good to wrap up? Is this okay? Okay, let's wrap up. I'll thank Barbara on behalf of everyone. Thank you, Barbara. I really do appreciate all you do for everyone in Crown Council. You're such an amazing resource. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure I welcome anybody emailing me separately with questions, of course.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate being with you, and I'm grateful to have you as part of the group. So until we meet again, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, sir.